Sitting right there.
I am calling to order this regular meeting of Town of Gibsons Council, July 9th, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. And we're honored to be gathered here in the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. First, we need to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Motion carries. And we have one set of minutes to adopt from the regular council meeting of June 4th, 2024, which moved by Councillor Kroll to adopt those, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we're on to bylaws. We have, this has been an extensive project and story, and I don't know if we have a update or if it's just written.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, everything's in the staff report. The AAP closed at 4 p.m. on July the 3rd. For the sanitary sewer outfall project, we had 70 response forms that were submitted. 60 were certified as valid, and 9 response forms were invalid as they were located in the SERD and therefore not eligible. For the loan authorization bylaw for water main project and road restoration, 69 response forms were submitted. 61 were certified as valid, 7 response forms were invalid, again in the SCRD, and 1 elector response form was withdrawn. So as the elector response forms were received from less than 10% of the electors in the Gibsons area, calculated at 393, the elector approval has been obtained and council may consider adoption of both the bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone ready to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White.
It's seconded by Councillor Thompson. Go ahead and speak.
No, it's all good. I was just going to
Okay.
read the recommendation, but if
Okay,
everyone's happy with it.
it's a recommendation on
Page
the
2
first
of the
page of the
report,
agenda. Yeah, and also on the agenda.
page 20 of the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor DeAndretti.
Just a quick question. I understand the need for this project, so I'm not questioning. I just wonder, is there hopes that we would apply for a grant and maybe we don't need to use all this funding?
Okay. Look to staff on that.
At this point, it would be through the mayor, highly unlikely that we'd be able to find a grant and submit an application and receive that funding between now and when the project would be ready to proceed. I certainly, moving forward with some of the other utility replacement projects that are identified in the 5-year capital plan that was adopted in the spring, we would be, hoping to be able to find some grant funding for some of those ones. But given the criticality of the work, we would certainly not recommend waiting for the opportunity for grants.
Yeah, as always, some projects fit well into grant timelines, but others don't. So this needs to be done. This is the way that we're needing to pay for it. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion? That carries. Yeah, that was for adoption. The other readings have already passed. So we have another bylaw here for adoption, which is the smoke control bylaw, and we've discussed this extensively as well in past 3 readings. Moved by Councillor DeAndretti, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? That motion carries to adopt. And now we have the filming regulation bylaw, policy and fees. And this has been another subject of a lot of work. A lot of work first to deal with the fact we didn't have a bylaw, or an updated bylaw, and then needing to work on this bylaw and policy and fees. And I don't know if you want to summarize it all, Tracy.
Sure.
That'd be great.
It's a long report, and I know there's a lot of attachments there, so apologies. The film policy was originally adopted, the current one, in 2004, and changes in the film industry have come a long way since that time. Our policy is now outdated, and the fees don't meet the possibilities that we could see. So we're recommending that those be updated. Let's see, I did a deep dive into other municipal filming regulation bylaws and policies and procedures, with Maple Ridge being the gold star in the industry for their website and forms. Also looked at North Vancouver, District of Squamish, West Vancouver. I also met with Creative BC staff to get more information and recommendations that were incorporated into the bylaw and the policy and the fee schedule. Schedule K is a new proposed schedule for our rates and fees and charges bylaw that will also be in the next item on the agenda. And to have this bylaw work for us, we also needed to update the Ben bylaw to address the any filming violations, and also the anti-noise bylaw needed an update or an amendment, pardon me, to allow for a noise exemption through bylaw. So happy to answer any questions or.
Any questions, Council? Councillor D'Andretti.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, the report was excellent. I understood everything. I have one question that actually regards not only this bylaw, but all these other bylaws. Do we have a policy that we have to update the bylaws every 2 years? I'm talking about the fees because of inflation. Do we have anything? I'm just concerned because even when I look at the other bylaws, the bylaws have not been updated since 2014, and it's not even catching up to the inflation at this point. So we seems that we're always behind. So just wondering if there's some or appetite to at least update every 2 years or something, just to.
We don't have that policy, but I mean, I don't know if we have a review policy, but I mean, keep in mind too, inflation isn't always what it has been the last 2 years. It's not like, I'm not sure there's definitely a need to look at the significant inflation we've had in recent years and update based on that, but it has been very, very steep the last couple of years. It's not always the case. Yeah. But on this bylaw right now, are there any questions on this bylaw? Councillor Thompson?
This bylaw, but probably for everything that other bylaws that are going to come up with increases, and it's going to be the same question, which is, are we meeting our cost recovery in these areas? And I think that was the initial question, and I see you put a great amount of work into this.
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer because this is kind of a future projection of what we could receive as for fees. And it's based on this was designed and based on what's kind of the industry standard, not too high and not too low, kind of in the middle for the fee structure. Certainly with the last film production company that was in town, we could have really done more with our fees. Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question. I think this would better align us with what's out there and certainly help with our cost recovery if some of the staff time could be covered. There's so many tentacles when you get a film application. It's, infrastructure, it's bylaw, it's so many departments that it's kind of hard to quantify.
Thank you for that, and I know it's a crystal ball question there, but maybe to Councillor D'Andretti's point, with this particular bylaw, we could look at a review in a couple of years just to see if we're on point, because it is such a unpredictable scenario. Just like to make sure that we're staying in that zone.
Okay, Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. Certainly applaud all the work that's gone into this. It's, a huge task, and I know it's been something we've been talking about for a long time. One of the things that I sort of popped up that I thought was in it, and I don't see it, there's 16.1 makes a reference to environmental impact during filming. And a number of communities do give, reflect in their fee scheduling for films that are being proactive to curb their environmental impact. There's carbon reporting that film companies can and can't do, and the film unit that was recently in town, when I asked them for their carbon report, they hadn't done one. Which, when you consider 1 hour of film, 1 hour of on-screen production is 72 tons of carbon. So, if we're going to invite these people into our community, I would like to see a little emphasis on considerations more for the environmental impact, because it is huge. And the film companies do have options. They can go to synthetic diesel. If they have to do diesel, they can use battery pack generators that they tie in from an electrical feed drop. I would just like to see a little more in there for being green in our community other than what's covered in 16.1.
Okay, is there, I hear that's your critique of it. Are there questions?
Well, in an earlier draft, there was language in the report for concessions being given for companies that are doing green, and I see it's been removed, so I'm just sort of questioning why.
CAO Machado?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Our recommendation is not to include a reduction in the fee for the reasons that your couple of councilors has mentioned as well. Our fee is not very large. There's, on the policy side, and even in the introduction to the bylaw, there's a recommendation or emphasizing the need to have a greener operation as possible. But then, when it came to the fees, it was proposing a 50% reduction on the fee. It would put the subsidization, in a sense, of the greening on those operations on the taxpayers or Gibsons. So it wasn't sort of a policy decision on our end, but it just didn't meet with the intent of raising the fees, and now we're providing a credit for, actually, we're just trying to encourage them to have greener operations, be it waste management or energy or other, or use of other products. So it was a decision that we made as staff, but the reason was for that. It was
Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. Just in follow-up to that, then, maybe 50% reduction in fees was a bit generous, but I think there should be stronger language to encourage companies to operate with what's available in green production.
Okay, I mean, would that be something separate, or?
I'm certainly happy to approve this as is, but I would like to see the introduction of some language to, just to encourage people to be green. They have the options to do it. Virgin River, which is shot in Squamish, is totally green. They use battery generators, battery packs. Their catering uses reusable dishes. They've reduced their dump fees from a dumpster a day to a dumpster a month. So, they can do it. And that needs to be encouraged.
Okay, well, that's something we can, I think we should pursue. Apart from this, yeah, I tend to agree that we should be expecting all the operations to be green and make that be the base fee and maybe charge more for ones that aren't really significantly more, but that'd be a whole different kind of bylaw approach. But this I agree, Councillor Kroll, this is a good start. And are there other questions? Okay. Moved by, so this is a package of recommendations here regarding the film policy, the filming bylaw, having first, second, and third reading, rates, fees, and charges be amended to incorporate Schedule K, and then the bylaw enforcement getting first, second, and third reading, and anti-noise amendment bylaw for second and third reading. So that's moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any more discussion on the actual motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Speaking of rates, fees, and charges, now the next one is the rates, fees, and charges amendment bylaw, which is another significant piece of work, which was updating a number of rates, fees, and charges as requested by council in the last budget. And that was kind of a similar motivation for doing that as Councillor DeAndrade just brought up, which is that we do need to be updating these on a regular basis. So I think it's all explained in the report. And I'll just ask if there are any questions first. I know, no, okay. So Councillor DeAndrade moves the recommendations on, we're now on the third page of the agenda package, the recommendations that appear there. And a seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? That motion carries. Committee reports. We have a number of recommendations here. I think I'll go through them item by item, just because some of them are fairly long. So, active transportation network plan, that the active transportation network plan be endorsed. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Really get my attention if you want to discuss these, because we already discussed these in committee. So I'm just going to go through them one by one. All those in favor? The motion carries. Official community plan amendment. This is the update to DPA number 2. Recommendations as stated on item 5.1.3. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And then 5.1.4, applications for variance in form and character, development permit for a residential rental development and daycare at 718 North Road. We need it's just a motion right now and that we can discuss, but I need a motion first. So moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to acknowledge the importance of this project, and but I think my concern with it is because it's 21 meters and we have not asked a shadow study, and a shadow study is not a punitive thing, is to understand if there's an impact and if there's any way to mitigate in terms there's an impact. So my question to you, Mayor, would you support amendment of the motion that the developer provide a shadow study to council before council approves the project? I'm just really concerned with possible impacts of shadows.
Well, my role here is to really chair and facilitate this meeting. It's not about whether I support anything.
Well, a second, sorry, if you can second the motion, and then we can
Well,
discuss.
even to second, anybody, it's up to anybody here to second a motion if you're putting forward an amendment. Then
Okay, so,
it's not, I don't think any single person, I'm comfortably being singled out, but I don't endorse the notion of singling anybody here out.
oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just because as a mayor, I mean, this is a big concern. I don't have I'm supportive of the project, and I want to see this project go through, but to me, it's unfair to the neighborhood, to the community, just not have understanding of possible impacts. And if there is one or are many, at least we can mitigate. And these are the purpose of shadow studies, not to impede any project, it's a punitive thing. But I'm just concerned because I want to vote in favor of this project. Obviously, I want to see affordable housing here, but I'm just concerned that we are approving something without full understanding.
I think it was addressed in the staff report, and we definitely discussed it quite a bit at committee. That's why these are all these motions here, or quite a few of them, are the product of a lot of discussion. And I recall one point was that most of the shadow would be on what is currently a vacant lot on North Road. Was what I seem to recall discussing and reading in the report. So the shadow impact on current neighbors was not really something that was of a concern in the report.
Mayor, how do we know if we don't have a shadow study? That's my point. How do we know that there's no impact or the impact?
Well, we
will
all
be
live
just
here.
on the north?
We all,
No,
I mean, where's the shadow going to be cast then?
well, but the sun can be low in certain times of the year, and it might be even in other areas, and that's the point. We don't know, and we are voting in a way. I feel in the dark. I just don't want to regret. I'm not against this project. I just want to have an understanding, and we have had understanding of every single project. You know, for the 7 floors on Gibsons Way, we asked, and we saw it. My concern was that could shadow the school, and there was no problem. Yeah, shadow the street, that we could have potential problems during winter with ice, but it's something that we can, address. And that's to me my nervousness in approving. I just want to make it clear I'm not against.
Well, we do have a set of recommendations before us here on 5.1.4. I'll move it. I'll move the recommendations. We've got keen seconders. Okay, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion?
So Mayor, the motion I made, so
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
so the motion I made that we.
Oh, sorry, it was moved. You're right. It was moved before. So it was just, that was discussion of the motion. Any more discussion? Yeah, so that last motion was redundant. Okay, Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Sorry about that, I'm trying to follow the process.
Yeah,
so
it's-
I don't want to, go ahead.
No, well, no, if you want to discuss, please do it now, because otherwise we're going to vote. Are you ready to vote?
I'm ready to vote, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed?
Maybe
The
just-
motion carries.
Maybe just a clarification. So what about the motion that I put?
There wasn't a motion.
I said I would like to make a motion that we ask before we approve the project, that we ask a shadow study.
Well, you
That was
asked
my
that I
motion.
second it, which is not in order. You can't ask one person sitting here to second it. It's,
Oh, okay.
you have to make an amendment, and then somebody puts up their hand to say second. That's how Robert's Rules works.
Okay, but I asked for the
So
amendment
it wasn't
of the
seconded.
motion.
So now we're on to 5.1.5, which is shadow studies. Is there a mover for this? Okay, moved by Councillor DeAndrade. There a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion on this motion?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First, I would like a clarification, because when I read that, I interpreted that provision for requirement of a shadow study for height variances application. So I interpreted as request for variances, but not for zoning. So can we clarify, first of all, is this for any change in height And this word
This,
variance, it
yeah.
doesn't mean that is,
This is simply to ask our staff to do some research on this and get back to us with some options for variance, height variance applications.
okay, so it doesn't exclude zoning, rezoning applications.
I think in the wording, I think it would, but I'll look to staff and see how they would interpret that.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, if you would like us to prepare the provision, including height variances and rezonings, both of which could increase height, and then we can do that. So maybe that language just wants to be included with the variance for variance and rezoning applications.
Okay, how complicated would that be? I mean, are we talking about, because we're doing a whole review of our zoning bylaw right now as it is over the next year. I mean, is it,
Yeah. So, with your permission, if it were a shadow study for height variances and rezonings, I noticed in that if there's a threshold that excludes single-family dwellings, for example, below 9 meters or 3 stories, then it would be a matter of any larger applications providing a shadow study and providing certain views, potentially, whichever is asked for by council with their application package. So probably not that complicated.
Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor, sorry I was late. It would seem to me that if you're going to include this in things, it would be like on purposes for variances and so on, wouldn't it be? Like, you're not going to just have shadow studies for, like I'd say, like height variances, then you'd start including shadow studies, not for anything that already fits within the guidelines. I don't know, is that?
Yeah. I agree. I have a hard time understanding how it would be triggered for rezoning because, I mean, a variance is a variance. It's that's going to be something that it's a very specific height variance where I'm not sure. Councillor Kroll.
I think the word variance is the sort of fly in the ointment here. I think the intent of the recommendation when we brought it forward, and it was done on the fly, which is always the classic problem, that staff prepare a provision for a requirement for a shadow study where height increases are occurred above and beyond what is currently allowed. It's not specifically only in the condition of a variance. That's how I read the request or interpreted the request at the time we sort of drafted it at the committee of the whole. But I think
sorry, I just need to correct. It is specifically for a variance. It's for height variance applications. I mean, I don't agree that this was a poorly done motion. I think it's quite clear, and I think it gives staff the kind of latitude we need for them to go back and give us some more options and do some research.
I just interpreted in situations where there was a differential in height between what would normally be permitted within the area to what it's being increased to. A difference in height, not necessarily, yes, in fact, you are asking for a height variance, but there are other applications where a height increase might be sought that
I think we can only, I mean, I only interpret this as height variance applications. That's something very specific, and I think that's what I heard staff is interpreting it that way too. And said we could do more, but we'd have to change the motion, I think. And I don't know how we would change it. Then that would get rather complicated. Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the purpose of a shadow study is to understand impact of tall structures. And anything in this parallel 49, you know, depending on the time of the year, you would have a big shadow. So again, I think ideally you limit the sorry, you put a height and say above this height. And the only reason you would not do this if in the zoning process, there's a whole study of shadow on the new zoning created, and there's location specified, there's a whole study and say, well, if this zone is gonna be for 6-story, the buildings have to be positioned in this direction or whatever. So that's the point of having shadow studies. The thing is, right now, we don't. So my concern is, can we request shadow studies for any taller structure until the OCP is amended? And what is the taller? To me, 9 meters, it's a good start, because anything 4 meters, and it can provide shadow. 3 would, but, the buildings are already three stories. So that's my concern. And we have application for buildings, variants that were 4 stories, and they provided the shadow. And it's really good to see the shadow and say, oh, great, there's no impact here. It's not an issue. So you don't even bring an issue. There's no even discussion at council. So whatever this motion, so if this motion is just a focus on requests for variances, I would like to include, anything. To me, it's not only for height variance. I think we need to understand what we are voting. That's my concern. I would like to be actually above 9 meters for now. And then after we go through our OCP and we do the whole rezoning, we can have bigger studies and change. So
Okay,
right
well,
now don't
we can oppose this motion, for sure. Councillor Lumley.
Has it been moved?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, because this makes the most sense to me, and I like the way it's written, because it's like it's like one sentence, or like it's 2 lines. It makes it so simple. And we have to remember, it's not just about what somebody's going to think on the ADP or what a councilor's going to think. It's for people that come to town and say, hey, I bought this property, I'm going to develop it, and it's just like, hey, you know what? I want to increase the height, I'm going to need a shadow study, and then it's over. It's not like they do something and it comes to council and then we go, wow, I think they should have a shadow study. I think it just simplifies the whole process within the town. So that's why I mean, I don't know what the discussion is, quite frankly, so.
Councillor D'Andretti?
Thank you. I think the discussion has been, does it mean height variance, any height variance, or when people apply for variance? And that's what was the beginning of the conversation. If the translation of this high variance is any change in height, and then we have an understanding, and staff has an understanding, and the developer, but if this means when people apply for variances, to me leaves the rezoning outside and impacts on if we approve the rezoning. And I really don't want to see anything coming to council anymore with 4-story, for example, without a shadow study, just because it's a rezoning. So we can decide if this is height variance generally and include any change in height, but I would still like to see anything taller than 9 meters, because at least you have an understanding. Can I move that we do for?
I mean, we have a motion here that council already supported in committee. If I don't know if now we're hearing a different motion, or Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I think staff have got a pretty good idea of some of the nuances that council are looking for, and I would just consider voting on the motion that's before us.
Okay, so we're ready to vote on this. All those in favor? The motion carries. And now 5.1.6 is development permit for a 5-unit residential building at 504 South Fletcher Road. I recall there was a little less discussion on this one. It seemed pretty straightforward, but there was, I think, and it's just, this is all clean from staff's perspective too, and anything that's come up in the last couple of weeks. I think there might be something, but it's something that can be resolved in the development permit stage, right? I'll just look to
Thank you,
staff to
Mayor.
just make sure council knows.
Yeah, I could just highlight that the "and that" was a late addition to the resolution, so that's the only change. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So staff has added the and that just based on new information. I think that was, or maybe they can explain, yeah.
Yeah, we've added the resolution just for clarity because the landscaping that was part of the DP drawings that were already seen by council could encroach in the setbacks. And so this is acknowledging that some relaxation of the setbacks to allow what was already seen by council may be needed. Otherwise, some of the landscaping could be lost.
Moved by Councillor Kroll. Seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries. And 5.1.7 is a two-part recommendation there on Billy's Walk residences, and that's just to start this process with notification of first reading. Yeah, and the DP be issued to subject of the adoption of the bylaw. And I see Councillor Kroll's moving that. Seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Are you seconding?
I second, but I'd like to discuss.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So just to be clear, I would like to propose 2 more recommendations. So what's the process? Should we vote this first and then I can propose?
You could make an amendment.
Okay, so, thank you. So I'll propose an amendment. So I agree with this, but what I would like to see, it's that a developer works with the ADP in a formal recommendation to incorporate seaside, small village heritage details on the building A and C and present to council before second reading. So this is one recommendation I would like council to consider. I would also like to ask for a shadow study because the buildings are 4 floors, so. And a view study to understand also how, the other buildings would impact the, I'm appreciative of the corridor created, the view corridor created, but I think it's also important to understand. So these are my 2 recommendations.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for the first 2. Is there a seconder to add those 2? If we're going to discuss them, we need them seconded first, but there's also open to discussion of the main motion.
It
Councillor
does
Kroll.
impact slightly on Councillor D'Andrade's amendments because in the...
There's no amendment yet, but you can speak to the main motion.
Okay, I'll just leave it for now then.
Okay. I'm not seeing a seconder for the amendment. Yeah, question, Councillor Thompson?
The amendment that Councillor DeAndrade put forward, is it one?
We need a seconder if we're going to have an amendment.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand if it is for both together or they're 2 separate items. Like of what?
Both what? Sorry.
You made a suggestion of the ADP comment and then as well as the study. So
one,
is that a package deal?
oh no, I was going to, no, 2 different recommendations. One, that the developer works with the ADP to incorporate, seaside village, small village character or heritage details on buildings A and C. And the other is that council request a shadow study.
And I support the second half of that.
Okay. Do we have a point of order?
We do.
That's excellent.
Because
This
putting them,
is haywire.
with the rezoning of the property, one of the shadow studies, one aspect, and the ADP, but you also brought up a thing about view corridor. And in the rezoning of the property, the view protection aspects of that are changed. So that's not really relevant if the zoning goes through. So, I'm prepared to, as individual things, support 1 and 2, but not 3.
Okay, so I do, I had there was an there was an amendment proposed. Counselor Thompson seconded part of the amendment, which I think is okay with Counselor DeAndrade. That's the shadow studies part.
Yeah.
And I've heard Counselor Kroll speak to that amendment. Counselor Lumley, do you want to speak to that amendment?
Yes, thanks. Through the mayor, I have a hard time with council, like, getting through processes before it's even, hit the ground running, you know what I mean? It's like we're trying to dictate too much stuff. Like, this council's already determined, I think so, and I'll ask the mayor. I thought if we were in favor of a project, we'd go through first reading, and then we would do all sorts of, that's when we would engage with the public, right? Like, we've been down this road already, and I feel like, I don't know if I'm taking crazy pills but we can't do this every time. It's like, if we've made a decision, if we like a project, we pass first reading, and then it goes into that, now it's up to the developer to engage with the public to our satisfaction. And I just think we're all these amendments and stuff to this motion, I just don't know why we just don't move this motion. If we're in favor of this project, move it, and then it goes into the process, it goes into the public engagement, and then, you know what I mean? I guarantee you, these people, we didn't even ask them for shadow studies on Stonehurst, and they gave them to us. Let's just let the process happen, because we've already been through this before. I don't know if you guys remember this, and it works out well. It's like, and the public likes it because we say, hey, listen, council is in favor of this project. What do you think? Instead of after the third reading, right? Then we have a public hearing, and the community goes, well, these guys already decided. I thought we abandoned that process. I'm just asking the mayor, am I wrong, or?
You're correct on everything. I mean,
Okay.
this motion was originally intended, and we discussed this extensively already, but this is just the first step in the process to notify residents. Just notify residents. So this is still on the amendment. Councilor DeAndrade, I think.
Maybe my motion was before second reading. I just want to avoid, because my experience here in council is let's see, we don't make any motion. Then the first reading, we hear from the residents, but then the project comes and we don't have time to ask. For example, I never had the opportunity to ask for a shadow study for 718 North Road because it just came. I'm just trying to prevent anything. So what I would like is before second reading that it works, because this thing will keep going, will keep moving. And that this is before second reading. So my first amendment is that the developer works with the ADP, and the other.
That wasn't seconded, so I just want to, let's be clear.
Okay, so we shadow study, and I will take the view right now, because we will hear from, I just want to anticipate that we get the views, the shadow study before second reading.
Okay, are we ready to vote on the proposed amendment? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion doesn't pass. Motion fails, or that amendment. So we're back to the original motion, and that's as written. All those in favor? All those opposed? In favor?
No, I'm in favor.
The motion carries. And next, we're on to item 6.1, which is our Town of Gibson's annual report draft. Our communications coordinator is with us. I think it's a straightforward annual report. but I want to give her the opportunity to let us know if there's anything
Yeah, I
particular.
assume you've all had a chance to review it, and it's been available to the public for over 3 weeks now. It was advertised in the newspaper for 2 weeks. It's been available at the front desk, on our website, and shared on social media and the newsletter. We didn't receive any feedback on it. I would like to say thanks to a couple photographers from the annual report. We have our Daniel Fredland, Manager of Maintenance and Operations, who is also a photographer, and had a drone, so he was able to get us some great shots for the annual report. So I just wanted to say thanks to him for that, and also Rob Hagan from Public Works, who always takes pictures on the job, and it's great for communications. So I just wanted to recognize them for their contribution to it. And welcome any feedback or comments or suggestions for next year of things you want to see in it.
Great. I've got Councillor Lumley first.
Yes, thank you. Well, I guess this will be the first feedback you get about the report, I guess, eh? I thought it was great, and you know what? I was just going to say, I know you said the pictures, but thank you very much. Thanks for all these pictures, because I've been on council for quite a while, and the pictures never changed, but the town has. So I really appreciate the updates, and I thought they were, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were moonlighting. I thought we had hired a professional, so I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. I thought it was a great report. I thought it shows people, it shows the town, it shows, I don't know, a community. I thought it encapsulated it, so I really liked it. Thank you.
Councillor Kroll.
I can only really, I'm sort of shocked that you didn't get feedback and that Councillor Lumley was the first person to give you feedback, but kudos. And I can only echo what he said. And the one thing that really struck me this year was, great information, but the photographs pop. They just leap out at the page from you, and and it makes you sort of delve into the report because you're intrigued by how you've woven the photography in with the tables and everything. So absolutely great job. Thank you.
Great. Any, Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite impressed with the report, and I love the way you managed to tuck more things, but without making look busy. Actually, I was so interested in reading the report, which is challenging, especially a lot of stuff I know already, but I just want to keep going because I love the quick facts, the little, well, you have great skills to start with, but you're using them really well. I love the pictures, the way you manage to do a variation of actual photos and all the charts and the icons. No, it has been amazing. So I have no suggestion. I think you should just, for next year, just continue to do what you're doing. I think it was amazing. Thank you.
Okay. And there's, we don't, everything everyone else said. But
I would just like to comment too about how, through you, the mayor, how creating the report really gives me such an appreciation for the town and the hard work that all the staff do, and how it's so hard to categorize it into departments because everything is such a team effort and involves council and staff and the public and everything to come together. So it's really gives me a great appreciation for everybody's work here. And thank you for your comments.
Okay. I think that's moved by Councillor Kroll to that the public input be considered, which I think it has been now, and that the annual report be approved. Seconded.
No.
Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries. And 6.2. We've got license agreement for BC Hydro EV charging station at 700 Park Road. And our Director of Infrastructure has supplied us a report on this issue. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, just a quick summary. So the report came through BC Hydro reaching out, proposing an EV station be established somewhere in Upper Gibsons. And through some discussion with their staff, the parking area outside of the Gibsons area community center was identified as kind of the preferred location from BC Hydro's perspective. And the report summarizes what would be involved. It's proposing 9 DC fast charging stations and 6 level 2 chargers as well, and as well as the kind of summary of the discussion and the agreement with Hydro. The draft final agreement with Hydro has been attached, as well as the a consent form that would go forward through the SCRD board, given that this area overlaps with the SCRD's lease agreement with the town for the operation of the community center. It's been vetted through our legal. There's no concerns, there's no implications given the existing lease agreement. The SCRD is aware of it. It's more of a formality that BC Hydro had requested to have that consent form passed through the SCRD board. So I'll just leave it at that and look for any questions.
Questions? Yeah. Move it? Okay, so yeah, and I saw Councillor Kroll seconding. So I just want to check. Yeah, we do have the map there, and I mean these aren't current parking stalls.
They are currently, yes, they're open to the public. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a significant amount of parking stalls to be used here, especially for the, yeah, I just worry that might be I mean, sometimes when there's it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I wonder so if there's a hockey game now and the parking lot's packed, are we going to have a mostly empty, like maybe two, it'll be interesting to see if we have 2 stalls used and the rest empty and people parking down on the road or something. And if these it's just more than I expected. The EV charging station from BC Hydro at, I think in Pender Harbor it has about 3 spots, and then about 4 spots in Seashell. But those also don't have the conflict with that the community center might have when there's a big event there. So I'm just raising that concern. But I'll go to you first, and see Councillor Lumley and Councillor Kroll are on the speakers list too.
Thank you. If I may speak to that, that was certainly a concern that was raised by staff at the regional district as well as our park staff, just with some of the events that happened there, both at the arena and the Brothers Field. As the license agreement has been drafted, there is a provision in there that allows some flexibility, some discretion from staff to say that would be either the operators of the aquatic center or park staff to make an assessment on how busy the parking area is. So in that exact situation, if the parking lot is overflowed and there's a whole pile of vacant charging stalls, we would have the flexibility and the discretion to put up some temporary signage that would basically just say open for public parking. It would we went back and forth with Hydro on that, and we landed on language that we're both comfortable with. It's one of the clauses that's in the draft agreement that was appended to the report. And the intention is that we would, were this to proceed, kind of both sides, both parties, see if it's working for the other, just to make sure that there's not situations where, as you've described, the parking lot is overflowing and there's a whole bunch of vacant stalls, or it's being used too frequently and people who are looking to charge their vehicles aren't able to access those parking stalls. So we recognize that concern, and there's some language in there intended to address that.
Thanks. Councillor Lumley is next.
The same things ran through my mind, and then I tried to envision where else would this or where else would this parking possibly be? And I couldn't really come up with a good one. As someone that has been obviously driving to the community center with, like, even the most recent years, like, I think these stalls are a good representative, because if there is anything other than maybe the junior hockey game, most of the times they're empty, unless maybe there's like a baseball tournament. But the great thing about having this at the community center is that there's so much alternative parking, like Boulevard and Broad Streets, and like you said, like across like the shopping center, like all along the GBS fence. Like, there's so many different alternatives for parking that's like really low risk as far as people that have to park and maybe walk to the arena. And anyway, I just thought, when you look around the big picture, if you're going to enter into this agreement, which I think we should, it's probably the best spot. I mean, you can't have it in Lower Gibsons, because Lower Gibsons is more of a transient. You have your 2-hour limits and so on and so forth, and you want people to be moving through Gibsons, not just coming down to charge their cars. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you, the Director of Infrastructure, for addressing the flexibility that has been addressed. I know in advocating for the faster charging stations, BC Hydro was very limited as to where they could possibly go. And I know the rec center is one of the few areas where there is currently the infrastructure in place to support them. So the Director of Infrastructure answered my one concern, was addressing the flexibility of the parking stalls. So I'm totally in support of this.
Councillor DeAndretti.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two questions. One is, if the design will accommodate people with disabilities. And the second question is, if will larger EV vehicles like pickups be able to plug in as well?
Okay. Yeah, it kind of looks like a yes on both those by the looks of the map, but I'll go to our staff.
Thank you. Through the mayor, that specific question about accessibility, that question hasn't arisen yet, so that's certainly something that would get passed on to Hydro through our review of the design. And then as far as larger vehicles, I mean, the parking stalls will be the same size as the ones that are currently existing there. So, sorry, as far as the length goes, they would be able to accommodate a vehicle as, the similar size as to what's there right now. Certainly, this is a draft. This is a proposal from BC Hydro. If there's recommendations for modifications to make a number of the stalls wider to have accessibility, to address accessibility, that's something that we can return to Hydro and propose.
DeAndretti?
Yeah, I think this is an important concern. I mean, it's hard to, when you look at the picture, it seems that two large parkings, but I don't know if people can really, be mobile, take it. So anyways, this has to be some technical people examining. I would like that this be considered. And the truck thing as well. I don't know if there's issue with capacity of the charge, but I'm just considering, if pickups would be able to do. I would like BC Hydro to respond that, and if they say no, if there's anything that can be done. Unless, Mayor, there's no pickups electric, right? I don't think that's the case. There's some. Maybe big pickups is not too many, but there are some.
I see them more and more every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the mayor, just looking for a point of clarification. If the question from the councillor is about the physical size of the stall to accommodate a truck, or if it's the charges itself ability to charge a truck. I'm looking for a little bit of clarification on that.
Councillor Lumley, half the hockey players have big trucks. All those stalls are filled with big trucks, right? You can confirm this? They're not electric. They're not electric, no. But the stalls can fit big trucks up at that.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I've ever seen, so.
Yeah.
confirmed by two of us. Are we ready to vote on this?
Just a question here. I'm not aware if there's a I don't know, does anyone know, council or staff, that if pickups demands more capacity from the, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a wide range. It depends on the make and model of all types of vehicles. You could have a vehicle that's physically the same size and have very different battery size and therefore different charging demands. The stations are designed for a range of demand of vehicle type. It just might take longer for a larger battery vehicle to charge, but they're kind of universally suitable, so.
Okay. So Mayor, just to confirm, I think the only question then is regard accessibility for disabled people.
I think staff's heard you on that.
Appreciate that.
All those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. And now we're on to 6.3, Housing Accelerator Fund. And this is a request to just shift the budget to spend some money earlier, right? Yeah, just that's all it is, I think. So I think it's straightforward in the report. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And then item 7 is our council reports. Does anyone have any questions on the written reports? Councillor DeAndrade?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say kudos to Conchita and all the volunteers, the people that organized Canada Day. It was quite an event, very well organized. The food was outstanding and good cake as well. I didn't try because I didn't have the chance. I was serving, but there were big lineups. And by the way,
Question?
well, just cake was not enough. Next year we have to up the game, but I heard lots of good feedback. The community, the show, everything was amazing. So,
Okay, no question. Councillor Lumley, do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess through the mayor, my question was on the green waste. I just was curious, like, if you worked with the SCRD to allow landscaping companies, like, was there any like for free to drop off? I mean, I can only assume the landscape companies are charging their clients or their customers for clearing up the green waste. Was there any discussion of any kind of payment? Like, not that, obviously you want somebody to discard green waste properly, and if they're doing that, then you want to give them. But was there any discussion of any sort of payment or any, like, even just a part payment or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, having a weigh scale, right? Like that'd be how you do it, and having more staff. So that's been in previous reports, and that's ideally how they'd like to deal with green waste, as everybody would get their green waste weighed, and it'd be a fee process. That's probably what'll happen in the future, but the technology isn't available now, the cost of it, and you'd need more staffing there as well to do it. So, and it's been talked about for years, including when the town had the contract to this, but it's just not feasible right now. It might be in planning for a new kind of station there in future years. And I think there's interest in that from the SCRD to work towards something different. But to be really clear about this, so it's been happening forever. Landscaping companies using that site, and it's been fine. It's been completely fine. And people are, particularly landscapers, are serving seniors in our community. Like, I've heard a lot from Georgia Mirage, for example, was one. Marina Place was another one. their strata hires somebody to come in and pick up the green waste there, and it's a small operation with a pickup truck. And only recently, for whatever reason, for whatever reason, they've been denied access, and they've been doing it for years and years and years. So this really is not going to be a change. It's really just confirming the practice that's gone on for years. And the town used to deal with it differently. The town used to actually have I think this came up 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago in the last term, and the town issued letters just confirming that this is residential green waste from people's yards that the landscapers could supply on the site. So that's what's going on here. It's just confirming. It's kind of just putting in the bylaw the past practice. Yep. But a user pay system makes sense with a lot of things we do, like water and other things in the town. But that would require a scale. Any other questions? So we're looking at motion to close, which is to close under sections 91A and 91K of the community charter. You're moving that? Moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And we'll take a